SIPOC stands for Suppliers, Inputs, Process, Outputs and Customers. Throughout the process, the suppliers provide the inputs, materials or information, to the process, which is the process you're looking to improve. The process adds business value, and this results in output that should be met or exceeded beyond customers' expectations. SIPOC diagram takes the perspective that any procedure or any business system, no matter how complicated, can be broken down into these components, as shown. The SIPOC diagram should only be used to describe the existing process as is, and not the to-be process. This tool is a particularly useful tool in answering the following questions. What is the start and end point of the work? That is, the scope of the process we are trying to improve. What are the essential high-level steps within the process? Who are the key suppliers? What are all the inputs into the process? What requirements are placed on these inputs? What are all the outputs of the process? Who the real customers, both internal and external, of the process are? And finally, what are the requirements of these customers? The SIPOC is a critical part of the define phase, because it helps you look at it at a high level. It can be shared with all stakeholders to validate the project scope and their role, and it is one of the first steps before doing a CTQ drill down. The first step is that you want to start in the center with the process. This will be your high-level 30,000 feet view process map. It is usually a 5 to 7 step high-level map of the process. Usually the hardest part of developing what the process is determining what is the first and last step. Through discussion you say what is the first step in the process, and then through further discussion you define the last. This in a way also defines the scope of your project. Then you go through and you fill in a few high-level steps. Your high-level process map is ready. The intent isn't to get a detailed process map, just to get a few steps in there at a high level so that everybody is on the same page regarding what process will be focused upon. The second step is to do the output column. You'll be tempted to add outputs to each process step, however in a SIPOC you want to show once all the steps are followed, what will be the final outputs you will be left with. Please remember, the outputs could also be business related, like financial benefit to the organization. Third step is to identify your customer. An important point to note is, the customer is someone or some organization or department who is the recipient of the output. The customer might or might not be your client, and there could be one or more customers of the process output. Fourth, after you determine who your customers are, then you back up, and start looking at the inputs by asking the question, for this process to be successful, what are the things that we need to have? What are the inputs to the process? The different types of inputs could be actual physical materials and also information. This will need brainstorming with the team, and most importantly process owner. The fifth step is to ask the question, who supplies these? Remember to stretch the thinking to the whole system. Here's a quick recap. SIPOC stands for Suppliers, Inputs, Process, Outputs and Customers. The suppliers provide the inputs, which would be materials or information, to the process. The process adds business value, and this results in output that should be met or exceeded beyond the customer's expectations. This brings us to the end of Course 240. Next is Course 250, Project Charter.